Hartman, 11:30 tonight. And now, from TV5 in Atlanta, Eyewitness News Update with Ken Watts, Cynthia Good, Kerry Coleman with weather, and Bill Hartman on sports.
Good evening. Financial analysts are expecting Texaco stock to plunge tomorrow on Wall Street. That after Texaco officials filed for protection under federal bankruptcy law today. And reaction is pouring in over allegations that former state senator Julian Bond abuses cocaine.
But this is our top story. Atlanta religious and political leaders launched a war on drugs today with a march through some of the worst areas for drug dealing. TV5's Sally Sears says the marchers cited a number of ways in which drugs harm the community.
It destroys the tissues of the brain, and alcohol destroys more black people in America than any other single or combined thing in America.
Hosea Williams says he has not had a drink in 9 months. He led off today's parade, marching through one of Atlanta's harsher neighborhoods, East Lake Meadows.
I don't think drugs is the number one problem. I think it's the number one fear. And until America really come to grips with that fear, we'll lose the nation. I mean, it's just incredible. We wouldn't permit Russians to stand on the street corner and sell dope. Why permit anybody else?
They hope that a brave showing of prominent black leaders will bring home the message to a black community where drugs often are a livelihood.
I'm here to do whatever I can, to say whatever I can, to try to influence whomever I can, to try to help give our children the kind of values that's going to help them to grow up as strong people so that they won't have to be dependent on drugs.
Residents in East Lake Meadows watched the parade go by. They said the drug problem here is, in fact, terrible. One of them said it makes her want to do only one thing.
The only thing I want my daughters to do is move so I can move.
Eva Henry has lived here for 11 years now, finding needles in her rose bush, and worse.
That's my baby right there. She's 14. These are my grandchildren. And my little son, her son walks around sometimes with a bag in his pocket talking about, let me go make a sale.
She says this is a dreadful place to bring up children. The marchers hope that won't always be so. With the March Against Drugs, I'm Sally Sears, TV5 Eyewitness News Update.
Reaction to allegations of cocaine use involving former state senator Julian Bond continues to pour in tonight. Last week, Eyewitness News broke the story of the transfer of 3 narcotics officers working a drug investigation involving Bond. Investigative reporter Dale Russell says Bond's friends are rushing to his defense.
I think that people shouldn't make judgments until they know what's going on about the whole situation.
Too early to tell?
Too early to tell. I don't believe it. I say that.
Hanging over this march on drugs like a storm cloud is the recent news allegedly linking former state senator Julian Bond to cocaine addiction.
And we never have to be ashamed of one moment.
A confidential police memo obtained by Eyewitness News spells out allegations of Bond's cocaine addiction. The informant, the woman to Bond's left, his estranged wife, Alice Bond. But today, during Hosea Williams' March Against Drugs, friends and colleagues of Julian Bond's had strong opinions on the matter.
If it's found to be true or not to be true, it ended up having a positive effect because the drug issue will be played up and then people will start talking about problems. And then, you know, if the stories run enough, then people will start running stories about where you would go to get help and what have you.
Coretta Scott King says she knows nothing about the allegations of Bond's cocaine use, but she hopes the story will help someone.
But the issue that the media and everybody else should be concerned about is how we can deal with the issue in a positive way so that we can help solve a problem.
One of the most unusual allegations in the police memo is that drugs were delivered on the floor of the General Assembly. State Senator David Scott served with Julian Bond for 12 years in the General Assembly.
That is absolutely untrue, and I served over there with him for 13 years, and I think others have, and I've never seen Julian Bond use cocaine.
Dale Russell, TV5 Eyewitness News Update.
Now, Bond's lawyer told Eyewitness News Update tonight that Bond plans to make a public statement soon. Also, sources tell us that the officers involved in the investigation are concerned that they may be the subjects of disciplinary action now that the story has leaked to the press.
A grim prediction tonight on the future of black men from the head of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Benjamin Hooks, speaking to a civil rights conference in New Orleans, says 3/4 of all black men will be dead, in prison, unemployed, or addicted to drugs by the year 2000. Hooks calls drugs the greatest enemy of black people. He also says it's more difficult to rally Americans around civil rights causes today because many young people can't visualize conditions prior to 1960.
Business news tonight. Texaco, the nation's third largest oil company, files for bankruptcy after failing to resolve its billion-dollar legal fight with the Pennzoil Company. A judge slapped Texaco with an $11 billion fine in 1985 after a jury decided the company illegally interfered with Pennzoil's attempted takeover of Getty Oil.
We were quite simply forced to make a Chapter 11 filing because Pennzoil has rejected any reasonable basis for settling the absurd $11.1 billion Texas judgment.
This should have absolutely no effect upon people using Texaco products or on the price of the Texaco product. Indeed, the bankruptcy filing permits the company to act on day-to-day operations without needing to worry about creditor demands.
But Georgia State University economist Donald Radachek predicts Texaco's stock will fall sharply. The company's bankruptcy announcement follows a U.S. Supreme Court ruling last week that Texaco would have to post an $11 billion bond until its appeals were exhausted. Texaco is the largest U.S. corporation ever to file for bankruptcy.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News Update, some Gwinnett County residents are fighting to slow down the county's drive for a larger sewage treatment center. We'll tell you why. And Secretary of State George Shultz has begun his trip to Moscow amid criticism over the State Department's handling of the Moscow spy scandal.
And this isn't a slow-motion pole vaulting contest. We'll tell you what it is when Eyewitness News Update returns.
If you've been looking around and around for a riding mower, look at the Toro 832 rear-engine rider. In the most recent test by a leading independent consumer publication, a Toro was the only one to be rated #1. And since then, we've been going around making improvements, which keeps the other guys going around and around.
Available at these and other fine Toro dealers.
The heat of the sun, searing, relentless. An ordinary window lets most of it right in, but Anderson's high-performance sun window turns hot sun into cool daylight. It actually reduces the sun's heat 2.5 times better and helps eliminate the rays that fade fabrics. Come home to cool Anderson windows, the most refreshing glass under the sun.
Available at Wheeler's Manus Building Centers, Builder's Warehouse, Pools Hardware and Supply, and Window World.
There's a spirit growing all across the USA, feeling getting stronger. Spirit of the new ERA, a feeling of pride about what we do, helping make your American dream come true.
We can help make your American dream come true, faster and easier.
Helping make your American dream come true, the new ERA.
At Meta, we put all our resources into copiers, not microwaves. Meta, we make our great copiers.
In many parts of the world, 2 out of every 5 children don't live to see their 5th birthday. They're dying at the hands of these 6 diseases. But we can stop these killers with vaccines that cost Project Hope just $5 to deliver to a single child. Please share just $25 with Project Hope's Child Survival Program. You'd protect 5 youngsters for life.
Secretary of State George Shultz flies to Moscow tomorrow for 3 days of talks with top Soviet officials. Right now, Shultz is in Helsinki, Finland, where he met with advisors today on eliminating medium-range missiles in Europe and with experts on human rights and world trouble spots. Tomorrow, talks with Soviet Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze will center on arms control.
I happen to believe that if Secretary Shultz and the Soviets can't reach some agreement and some timetable, we're not going to have an arms control agreement in the Reagan administration.
Shultz is also expected to protest spying at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Some say with all the reported bugging at the embassy, Shultz shouldn't go at all.
We think it would be logistically impossible to have secure conversations.
I take responsibility as the ambassador there for the operation of our security, and we clearly failed in the case of the Marines. I think I failed.
But the former U.S. ambassador to Moscow said he was ruthless in enforcing U.S. policy against Marine guards fraternizing with Soviet citizens. In a published report today, President Reagan says revelations that Marines traded secrets for sex with Soviet women may mean America's youth are not being taught the difference between right and wrong. The superpower espionage rhetoric also continued today in the Soviet Union. A TV commentator there charged the spy mania in Washington is a virus worse than AIDS.
Back in this country tonight, thousands of Pittsburgh residents evacuated after a train derailment and chemical leak last night are returning home. Work crews have set upright an overturned tanker car that was filled with phosphorus oxychloride. The chemical gives off a pungent odor and causes skin burns. At least 6 people were hospitalized complaining of shortness of breath. The tanker derailed after the freight struck a second train heading in the opposite direction. Authorities still don't know the cause of that accident.
He was a Georgia native, one of the best-selling authors of his era. Erskine Caldwell died last night in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he had been under treatment for lung cancer. He was famous for stories about poor Georgia farm families, stories that sometimes outraged other Southerners. Caldwell is best known for Tobacco Road and God's Little Acre. His 55 novels and short stories sold more than 88 million copies worldwide. Erskine Caldwell, dead at age 83.
In the Middle East tonight, Israeli soldiers are sealing off the occupied West Bank town of Kalkilia after Jewish settlers went on a rampage today. The settlers were angry about a firebombing that killed an Israeli woman and injured 5 people. They blame Palestinian terrorists for the attack. Tonight, Arab-Israeli clashes are reported throughout the West Bank near Palestinian refugee camps. The Israeli soldiers have bulldozed orange groves to remove cover for suspected terrorists.
And now Bill Hartman joins us to talk about sports, the Masters, Braves action, a lot going on.
A ton of lead stories, as they say. We'll show you all of that and tell you exactly what happened in New York City today.
The Honda Accord, with its unique double wishbone suspension, handles and rides like no other car. The Accord, from the engineers at Honda.
No longer am I a lousy cook, thanks to Heinz 57 sauce. Observe, I blend 2 parts Heinz 57, 1 part honey, and I've got a glaze that is really a glaze. Makes terrific chicken. Sensational spare ribs and a honey of a ham. Try Heinz 57 and honey. You'll see why it's more than a steak sauce. A heck of a lot more.
Eye-appealing, distinctive, contemporary. You won't find furniture like this in your friend's place, but they might find it in yours. Furnishings from Huff Furniture, 3178 Peachtree Road. Be as modern as you dare with furnishings from Huff Furniture in Buckhead.
Hello, highway. How are you today, my friend?
It was a typical day for Joe Potter at his fuel station. In at 6 a.m., out at 12. 12 midnight, that is. But you won't hear Joe complain. That's the way he likes it. In fact, if he really had his way, he'd stay open 24 hours a day. And sometimes he does.
Athena, you've got a friend.
What a weekend for Georgia sports fans. Championships all over the place.
Oh, I know it. Larry Mize, a former Georgia Tech golfer, won the Masters golf tournament, said it'd been a dream of his for life. He is the winner. He gets the green jacket thanks to this shot. It was on the 2nd hole of sudden death as he was way away from the pin. Greg Norman was on the green or almost on the green ready to putt when this came through for Mize. Larry Mize chips it in. He wins the Masters Golf Tournament. Much more of that coming up on Sports Unlimited. Here's the finish then. Mize, Norman, and Ballesteros all were 3 under par at the end of regulation. Mize is the winner. Crenshaw shot a 74 today. He finished 1 stroke off that threesome who made it into the playoff. Maltby was at 2 under. Jody Mudd at 2 under. Then it was Nicholas at 1 over par. Longer's there. Watson's there. Jay Haas is there. And D.A. Wybring also at 1 over par. Coming up on Sports Unlimited, the Hawks story. They win the Central Division by beating New Jersey today 115-88, while Washington beat Detroit 103-98. Other NBA scores, Bird gets 47, Boston over New York. It was Chicago stopping Indiana, and Portland beat the Clippers 113-100. Atlanta Braves have enjoyed a great first week of the season. They go 4-1 after beating the Mets 12-4. A pigeon figured in today's win when he was hit by a batted ball off the bat of Deion James. We will show you that on Sports Unlimited. The Braves exploded for 7 runs in the 7th. Ken Griffey singles up the middle. A couple of Braves are on their way to score. Braves take an 8-1 lead there. They beat the Mets 12-4. Other National League scores go this way. San Diego beats Cincinnati. Houston still unbeaten after knocking Montreal 1-0. Philadelphia beats the Cubs 9-8. Pittsburgh over St. Louis. Los Angeles beats San Francisco. American League, that's where the Milwaukee Brewers remain the only unbeaten team in that league. Today it was the Brews 7-5 over Texas. Boston beat Toronto. Baltimore got by Cleveland 7-1. Same score, Detroit over the White Sox. Kansas City beat the Yankees. Oakland over California. Minnesota 8-5 over Seattle. College baseball, Georgia Tech beat Wake Forest 13-9. KG White had 3 home runs. Georgia whipped Alabama 8-7 on an 11th inning home run by Don Perno. Chris Carpenter got the win. He is 5-1. Dale Earnhardt got the win. Another stock car victory for him. And we'll have that and highlights from Road Atlanta coming up on Sports Unlimited right after the show.
Too bad about that pigeon.
I know it. We'll see
Not
more
nice.
of him or her in a few minutes.
Anytime you take 2 out of 3 from the Mets at Shea, you're doing too badly, though.
Yeah, good for them.
Thank you, Bill. Coming up next on Eyewitness News Update, some Gwinnett County homeowners say the county's phenomenal growth is causing environmental problems, and they want it stopped.
And the Red Barons hit the Atlanta skies for charity. Coming up next on Update.
Kentucky Fried Chicken's got a new great deal. 10 plump pieces start a real good meal. And 4 fresh biscuits all for a steal. Kentucky Fried Chicken's got a new great deal.
Right now, get 10 plump, juicy pieces of chicken and 4 fresh biscuits. A great deal, just $6.99.
Kentucky Fried Chicken's got a new great deal.
Just $6.99 right now.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right.
If your car is searching for gasoline that's better than any regular unleaded gasoline, the search is over. Introducing new Amoco Silver Lead-Free, the pure gasoline that delivers better performance than any regular unleaded gasoline could ever hope to. New Amoco Silver. It's not your regular gasoline.
You can feel it the minute you walk in that door.
It's our job to make every customer feel special.
I don't know, it's like being among good friends.
Everybody at Bank South believes that.
Ask anybody who banks there, they'll tell you the same thing.
Our success hasn't been built on just providing good products. It's how we make people feel.
I walk out of there feeling like $1,000,000.
We've got something special going at Bank South.
I just wish I had $1,000,000.
In Gwinnett County, where a moratorium on sewer hookups is stunning the county's rapid growth, a group of homeowners are threatening to make the growth slow down a long-term proposition. From our Northeast Bureau, Doug Richards reports on how those homeowners see it and smell it.
It's a nice enough neighborhood to look at, pricey homes with quiet suburban families in them. It's what you can't see that sets this neighborhood apart from others in Gwinnett County.
It's a real musty sewage odor.
It's just, whoa, very bad.
It was an incredible stench. That's really the best word.
No, I don't smell anything now. Should I?
No, it's going to be intermittently. You're going to smell it some evenings for a couple hours, and it'll go away, and then it'll come back again.
The homes are right next to the Yellow River Sweetwater Creek sewage treatment plant. The county wants to double the plant's size, double the amount of sewage it treats. The homeowners want no part of it.
I can only imagine that the odors are going to become ever more prevalent, ever stronger.
But this is more than just a local dispute between a neighborhood and its county government. Because if Gwinnett County loses this fight, it could severely stunt the growth of the nation's fastest growing county. County officials say they need to double the size and capacity of the Yellow River plant to meet its long-term sewage needs and keep the threat of sewer moratoriums and construction slowdowns from hanging over the county. Have you ever smelled the smell that they're talking about?
Well, I have.
The plant and neighborhoods are in County Commissioner Don Logan's district, but he supports the expansion, says it'll be good for Gwinnett and good for the homeowners.
I think it's going to almost eliminate the odors and noise that have been the big contention around there.
But Charles and Barbara Vaccaro have trouble believing that. The expanded sewer treatment plant, they're told, would come within 100 yards of their swimming pool.
We're not anti-growth at all. We would just like the improvements to be made to our satisfaction.
At this point, such an agreement appears unlikely. Both sides have dug in for a long, smelly fight. Doug Richards, TV5 Eyewitness News, the Northeast Bureau.
And now with some words from you, our viewers, here is TV5's Paul Shields.
The issue of television evangelists, specifically Jim and Tammy Baker, on the minds of a couple of viewers this weekend. EC of Marietta writes, after listening to all the recent hoopla on Jim and Tammy Baker's scandal, I'm baffled at how naive we can be. These television evangelists are living the good life with expensive homes, luxurious cars, and first-class service wherever they go. This is not what religion is all about. And Reverend S.C. of Cartersville writes, the recent resignation of Reverend Jim Baker as chairman of Heritage USA reminds us once more of the need for reform in the Christian church government. For too long, our colleagues have misled church members by convincing them that we ministers are supposed to have absolute authority in church affairs. In order to solve the problem, the church needs a good dose of democracy with direct involvement and participation of its members. And of course, your comments are always welcome. Send them along to Eye on Us, Post Office Box 4207, Atlanta, Georgia 30302. Until next weekend, I'm Paul Shields, TV5 Eyewitness News.
Costumes and sawdust, animals and clowns. The circus is back in town. Shriners from all over North Georgia are sponsoring and performing in the circus at Cobb Central Park in Marietta. It's a major fundraising event for the Georgia Charitable Organization, and you'll have lots of time to enjoy the fun under the big top. The circus will be in town until April 19th.
We've been having some super weather, but Kerry Coleman says it might not be around too much longer.
No, this delightful weather, I think, is going to last maybe another good day, and then, well, we have a change, and we'll detail that next.
No, 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 no. We don't make terror like they do. We don't make stereo like they do. We don't make vacuum cleaner like they do. Oh, copiers, just copiers, copiers, just copiers.
Unlike other copier companies, Mita only makes copiers. After all, we didn't get to be the fastest growing copier company by making microwaves. Mita, all we make are great copiers. Call 1-800-ABC-MITA.
Cadillac Alante. It is a luxury roadster unlike any that has come before it. A Cadillac designed and handcrafted in Europe by the designer of Ferraris and Rolls-Royce. Imagine a world-class road car with Cadillac comfort. Alante is built with such care that its assurance plan includes the finest coverage for any car sold in America. Cadillac Alante.
Alante, the new spirit of Cadillac.
Bell South Mobility. We're the phone company for your car.
Come on along for a trip with the world's most lovable cabbies.
I'm gonna make him squeal like an eel and squirm like a worm.
They're ready to take you on a ride to where the laugh meter doesn't stop running.
How much pleasure can one man endure?
And they'll drive straight to your hearts.
This is just like in Body.
Or your funny bone, because Taxi's back and...
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Good Times with Taxi, weeknights at 11:30.
Almost midsummer type weather today, and Kerry says more of the same for tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a nice day. Today, I think, was absolutely perfect. 80 degrees for a high temperature. That is exactly my kind of weather. When it's 80 degrees, I am happy. I don't have any complaints. I'm not one of these fickle weather people who likes, well, cool weather in the summertime when it's nice and hot. I'll take summertime all year round, if you ask me. Why don't I live in the tropics, you ask? Well, I don't know. I like Atlanta. This is where I'm from. We're talking about clouds as of 7 o'clock this morning, and a good batch of clouds here across portions of the southwest, and some heavy snows associated with a strengthening storm system which is now pushing on into the Rockies, out of the Rockies and into the plains. And with this could be some rather potent thunderstorms overnight tonight across portions of northern Texas and into Oklahoma, and that is going to be our weather maker. Long about Tuesday, yes, we could have some real heavy rains associated with this system. Then we have a stationary frontal system located across the Tennessee Valley, and with that, just a few very light showers. We'll show you the radar echoes on top of the satellite picture, and you can see a few light thunder showers, light showers here across northern Alabama. And this rain has really kind of fizzled as it has moved on to the east, so we've seen very little of it across North Georgia. Those temperatures around the southeast as of 11 o'clock, a little cooler to the north, although not dramatically colder. To the south of this frontal system, generally the winds are from a southerly direction, and the temperatures are really holding on quite warm here across the south. You see all those 70s, 68 here in Atlanta. What's going on outside right now at Hartsfield International? It is 68 degrees, 80 degrees, that high temperature today, the warmest day so far this year. 57, that mild low temperature, those average 8 degrees above what's normal for this time of year. The record's 88 and 32. Partly cloudy skies out there, no rainfall in the last 24 hours. Humidity is at 54%, and the winds, at least temporarily, out of the northwest at about 7 miles an hour, and that barometer is rising. Sunrise tomorrow 7:10. It goes down at 8:07. Now, late tomorrow, here's what the weather map should look like across the United States. Rain all the way into the northern plains. Could be some hefty thunderstorms here into the lower Mississippi. This storm system's really getting its act together. It's certainly tapping some of that Gulf moisture, will be, as it tracks on to the east, and some fairly chilly air coming on in behind it. Now, I think that our chances for rain will not be very good throughout most of tomorrow. Until late tomorrow night, I think that'll be the first time that we'll have a significant shot of getting some of that rain. Could be some heavy rains, too, across central Alabama, as much as 3 inches of the wet stuff there, all the way into Tuesday morning. Your forecast looks like this. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. You can leave the windows open. It's going to be a nice, mild night. Since we're so close to that front, the winds will be variable, 5 to 10 miles an hour. And tomorrow, it'll be a pretty nice day. In fact, another day, temperature-wise, very much like today. Up to about 80 degrees. Southerly winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Looks like Tuesday is going to be a rainy day, and the rain should end sometime early on Wednesday and Thursday. A little cooler, but I don't think that's too bad. 66 for a high on Thursday.
Sounds good.
Can't complain.
We'll take it.
And we could use some more rain, I think.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie. And as Carrie said, there were clear skies in Atlanta today. While there weren't many clouds, there were a lot of people up there. The Red Baron Squadron barnstormed into the DeKalb Peachtree Airport today. The Precision team out of Marshall, Minnesota tours the nation performing benefits for charity. The pilots flying in open cockpits are famous for their spectacular soaring and diving maneuvers. The squadron is in town to raise money for the Scottish Rite and Eggleston hospitals for children. And some Georgia Tech students were also in the air today using slightly less elaborate means. Fraternity Brothers had been at the top of this 20-foot pole since Monday in a fundraising effort to fight multiple sclerosis in Georgia. The Theta Xi fraternity raised almost $1,500. Fraternity members in shifts of 2 spent time at the top of that pole all week long.
But kids, don't try that at home.
Really, good advice.
That's Eyewitness News Update for this Sunday, April 12th. For the news team, I'm Ken Watts.
And I'm Cynthia Good. We want to leave you with the music from Avondale Patillo, Indicator. Good night.
Good night.
AFS brings the world closer to you and